Finals, here they come. The Blues make it 8 straight to take a massive step towards September. The Lions hold off the fast-finishing Crows, and the Pies bounce back without Nick Dacos. This is The Round So Far, brought to you by AAMI. This is The Round So Far, brought to you by AAMI. I'm Riley Beveridge. This is Kane Cornes. Kane, massive day of footy today, massive day of sport today. We'll start at the MCG in the big story where Carlton made it 8 straight. Surely they're playing finals footy.
They hung on. Surely they are. 8 in a row. This was a big moment in the game. Akers nearly got the smother, and this looked home. Like, if you're just watching, gut feel was that was a goal, but the umpire said, umpire's call, they went upstairs. Insufficient evidence to overturn that. Marchbank after the game said he touched it. We'll believe him, but it saved them the game. Then they had some moments. I mean, Carlton kept exiting the ball. Demon kept pumping it back in there. And in the end, I think there was 3 deliberate or insufficient intents. Yeah. The ball kept going back in and they were good enough to hang on late, which was a different story to what happened last year.
I was going to say, it was so eerily reminiscent of what happened in round 21, round 22 last year when the Blues needed to win and make finals. And of course, Cozzy Pickett kicking that goal with just 11 seconds remaining. This time, Carlton did enough. They held on. And it was down to what they did in towards the start of the final term.
Yeah, there's the scenes there. Carlton fans, the lid is off. I can't remember an in-season turnaround like this. So congratulations to Michael Voss, who has them defending so well. Keep Melbourne under 60 points tonight. And also their ball movement was excellent. But there was a burst at the start of the last quarter, and this happened from stoppage. They kicked 3 stoppage goals in the first 5 minutes of the last quarter. I thought the captain, Cripps, was really influential in that. That's just a terrific finish from Owies off the give from Holland, who's a very good young player. They are surging forward. De Koning went forward. I thought he had an excellent night in the ruck, competing hard against Gawn and Grundy. And there's Cripps lacing out Curnow, who went back and slotted that for his second. That burst there at the start of the last quarter from stoppage, in the end, was the difference. But it was a final. Both teams were really combative. They both seized momentum. I think they're the 2 toughest teams in terms of contest and ground ball and pressure in the league. They nearly laid 90 tackles each. Carlton laid 21 tackles inside forward 50. What a game of footy. One of the best games we've seen this year.
Carlton's now beaten Collingwood, Port Adelaide and Melbourne, 3 of the top 4 in this 8-match winning streak. Charlie Curnow against Stephen May. It was one of the best matchups we've seen in a long time. Curnow, the Coleman medal leader, the reigning Coleman medalist, kicked 2 goals. But I reckon by the end, Stephen May just about pipped him.
Yeah, it looked like he was going to get a hold of him early. Like, he was sharp, and Stephen May, he just lost the ball in flight. And then when Curnow's doing this, getting up outside forward 50, you see May just panicking there and losing his composure, giving away a free kick. But how good is he at doing this? Look at that for a kick. That's as good a kick as you could see all year. So he's a weapon from outside 50. But May fought back hard. It was reminiscent of those great Carey Jakovic duels. I'm not suggesting that they're as good as those 2, but I am suggesting that we don't see very many one-on-one contests in modern football anymore, where everyone guards space and there's an extra defender that comes over the top. Well, not this. Look at the amount of one-on-ones these 2 are in, and in the end, they probably split the points.
Brodie Grundy came back into the side for Melbourne for this game. Spent the majority of the game up forward, finished with 9 disposals, only 1 mark.
Yeah.
What do you make of it?
Didn't work. He's a ruckman. He's not a forward. He was never a forward, and they were never going to be able to turn him into a forward 3/4 of the way through the season. So, look, it was worth a shot. Petty out is a big, big out, and they noticed that tonight. But I suspect, unless Max Gawn gets injured, Brodie Grundy plays VFL and they play a dedicated forward. So whether that's Smith and Tomlinson comes back until Bailey Fritsch is ready and they go a little bit smaller, that's the way I think they'll go. Because once again, the flow-on effect was that Gawn wasn't effective as he's been in the last 4 or 5 weeks either. He wants to be the guy. So he tried his heart out, but he was ineffective tonight.
Before we move on, can the Blues do it?
Well, it's just nearly impossible to win it from outside the top 4. I know they can still make the top 4 mathematically, but it's going to be incredibly difficult. They've left it a little bit too late, and I think, in the end, they're as good a team as any, and they're the informed team of the comp, but they're going to rue those early losses because to not have top 4 is going to hurt them in the finals.
It will be tough. Before this game, there was some incredible scenes at the MCG. That's where we find our moment. The Matildas, they've taken the country by storm. They won through to the World Cup semi-final for the first time in Australia's history. This game played on the big screens of the MCG before this game. Everyone getting involved. Everyone was riding the emotions of the penalty shootout.
It was one of the most amazing sporting events I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, it was gripping, real life drama. It felt like it went forever. And in the end, we hold on in a penalty shootout, but cannot wait for the semi-final on Wednesday night.
It will be fantastic. We'll move on to the Gabba now, where Brisbane held off a fast-finishing Adelaide side. I'll tell you what, this one towards the end, this goal put them 22 points up, but the Crows came back.
They did. They hung in there, and I'm telling you, this was a great game of footy as well. The Crows were excellent. The problem is they kicked 2 goals 5 in the last quarter, and their inaccuracy is going to hurt them. So there's still thought going back and slotting that with 9 minutes to go, and he keeps them in touch, and they kept coming hard, didn't they? So Rochelle comes on as the sub here, has an influence, terrific handball to Soligo with the finish. They got midfield dominance, thought the captain, Jordan Dawson, was enormous. Once again, Adelaide's pressure was elite, really. They nearly out-tackled them by 20, but Brisbane, through Harris Andrews there, just had a bit of composure, knew where to kick the footy too late, and they had targets down the line to provide a contest and hold on in another very close win for the Lions. How critical have the last 2 weeks been for them?
Especially with the top 2 spot on the line. I reckon if we've said this once throughout the year, we've said it 100 times, Brisbane's small forwards, just about the best in the company.
No, they are. They're the best. And if they get it going, these group can carry them to a premiership, because they only have to turn it on for 3 games in the final. So Bailey, look at that. Really good pressure. I mean, Charlie Cameron kicked 3, had the Michaelini match up, and Michaelini, unfortunately, the youngster, didn't really know what to do to him. He kicks it to Rayner, who started outside 50 and bolted forward. Link McCarthy was excellent. He kicked a couple. So they're absolutely everywhere. Cam Rayner didn't have a big night tonight, but he is capable of doing that. Even Zorko, when he goes down there, he's capable of doing that. So I just wanted to highlight this from behind the goals. How are you going to stop that? Yeah. How can you stop 3, 4, 5, 6 leads and then a lace-out pass? He actually defended that really well, Michaelini, but when Charlie Cameron is on like that, he's such a tough one-on-one matchup inside forward 50. That group can carry Brisbane to the premiership. They've only got to turn it on for 2 or 3 games.
They certainly can. I want to ask you about Adelaide. Finals probably out of the equation now. This might be a big reason for it. So this is every side they've played that's above them, and this is their away record against those teams. Yet to beat a side above them away from home. They've gotten better the last 4 or 5 games. They're 2 points, 4 points, 6 points, but that's going to kill them at the end of the day.
It is. It's a sign of their lack of maturity, and I just thought they looked young and tired, particularly behind the ball. So no Murray, no Butts, no Duday really hurt them. And Keane's back there, Ball Ace is back there, Worrell's back there. They got some youngsters there. So, look, I thought it was a pretty admirable performance from Adelaide with the youngsters that they've got back there, as was the Melbourne loss, as was that one there as well. So, look, they'll learn from this. Not going to be their year this year. They're going to have to fix that next year, but finals is an absolute must for them in year 5 of a rebuild with the list that they've got.
Brisbane will be playing finals. We're not sure if Jack Gunston will be playing finals. So this is a really nasty knee injury just before half-time. Looked like knee on knee. I mean, if that's a 4 to 6 weeker, I'm not sure if he gets back for September.
Yeah, it'd be hard for him because of the lack of training. I mean, at his age, we've already seen him have to go back and train halfway through this year and get himself and his touch back and his fitness back. So that's a big blow. I don't know if it's going to hurt the team so much as him individually. Clearly, we're feeling for him, and that's the reason he went to Brisbane, is to chase another premiership. But just go smaller. Hipwood, Danaher, Cam Rayner can play tall. Link McCarthy can play tall as well in that forward line. And as we said, they've got so many options in the forward line. So I actually think they'll be a little bit more dynamic with him not there, and it's not going to hurt them. Let's
head to Marvel Stadium now, where Essendon just held on against North Melbourne. I tell you what, though, they were given a fight by the Kangaroos, who have lost 20-odd straight games in a row.
Yeah, they're just going the Bombers, aren't they? Just get over the line against the worst team since Fitzroy and West Coast last week, and just get over the line against, as you say, a team that's lost 20 in a row. So, look, the issue for the Bombers, as we're going through some last quarter moments here, is that last week they couldn't stop the transition. This week they couldn't stop centre bounce. So outscored by 39, I think it was, from stoppage and centre bounce today. So when issues come up in different areas of your game, it's hard to pinpoint how to fix it. There's Cunnington there in his last game. We'll get to him in a second. He had big numbers, but yeah, in the end it was a pretty scrappy game of footy. North's actual effort was pretty good. Their ball use was horrible, and when it's not in their classy ball users' hands, you really notice it. So they're clearly lacking talent and ball users in their lineup, and that's what I thought hurt them today.
So that's Archie Perkins taking that mark, kicking the goal and sealing the deal for the Bombers. As you mentioned, 2 very narrow victories against West Coast and North. Not out of the finals race, but it's going to be difficult from here. We'll get to our Saturday star now, and it is Nick Martin. They moved him back to the wing. I was a bit surprised they moved him from the wing the last 6 to 8 weeks, but he's back on the wing, 32 disposals and 3 goals.
What a player he is, and his 32 actually means something because that's what he can do. One of the best kicks on the run in the league, there's no doubt about that. How 17 clubs overlooked him in the draft and how he slipped through to a pre-season pick is ridiculous, really, and how West Coast... he'd be West Coast's second best player if he was playing there because this is what he can do. Run and carry, makes good decisions, he's got composure, he's good in the air, he's good on the ground and goes forward and kicks goals. So had an absolute picnic today and I just loved his ball use. That was a standout for me.
He has been fantastic. Another man who's had a fantastic career is Ben Cunnington. It was, of course, his final game at Marvel Stadium today. He's been terrific for so long. 24 disposals, 10 clearances, 2 goals. Kicked this early one. Everyone got around him. He's just been such a fantastic player for that football club.
There haven't been many moments to cherish this year for North fans. This certainly was one of those. And you can see what that player means to his teammates. And it was a typical Ben Cunnington game. He wouldn't have wanted it any other way. So 24 touches, 16 contested, which was a game high, 10 clearances and a couple of goals. He was always really crafty when he went forward. He had that strength to be able to get a one-on-one match-up inside forward 50. But he was in and under. And he played with some freedom, and there's the scenes of him being carried off for the very last time, and no doubt he will be missed, but leaves a significant legacy at the Kangaroos.
A fantastic servant of that football club. Let's head to Friday night footy now, where Collingwood got the job done over Geelong after 2 straight losses. They were without Nick Dacos, but they still had Josh, and he was tremendous.
Oh, what about this game? He's played some good footy this year, but this was the best of them, I reckon. Just huge numbers right from the start. He had 38. Some of this ball use, he makes that look easy. I'm telling you, that is not easy.
Yeah.
That is unbelievably difficult. He just wheels out to the right and he's able to hook it back across his body with pinpoint accuracy. So we speak about Gordon, and I just spoke about Martin, but hard to top this guy's, if not the best field kick in the league, and he showed that against a very good opponent on Friday night. And Geelong were a very good opponent, and they had momentum for stages throughout this game, but I love Collingwood's bounce off half-back. Their chaotic ball movement, win a ground ball in defensive 50, and then they went. And at times, Geelong could not slow them down. And it was the third quarter where they really got a hold of them, kicking 6 goals and just put the foot down.
Geelong made some uncharacteristic errors, which they've done throughout large parts of this season, but particularly behind the ball. This was in the last quarter alone, just some really strange decision-making.
These are all in the sort of the first stages of the last quarter, early stages of the last quarter. Isaac Smith, turnover there, easy goal. You turn the footy over in the front half or that half of your ground, you're in all sorts of trouble against Collingwood, who are excellent off the turnover. Seeing this one here, drop mark, Radaglia. Radaglia does some good things, but he does some horrible things. And he had a couple of horrible moments on Friday night, so whether he's distracted about his future, I don't know, but they were so costly. So Smith into Radaglia, both cost them goals. You're looking at the score, you're looking at the time, and we're highlighting Radaglia again. What are you doing? Are you pressing or are you holding? Because you're on Bobby Hill. If you go, you'd want to go and kill the footy. He does neither. Ball drifts over the back. Then absolutely good night. Collingwood will put you to sleep if you let the ball over the back. So really costly errors from some players who have played a lot of footy and should have done better.
That last one leading to Brodie Mychek's 5th of the night. Good to see him bounce back and return to form. Tell you what, there were some, nearly costly errors from the umpires, a couple of them, both involving Jeremy Cameron, both involving the boundary line. I reckon this one can go either way as to whether or not
They ticked it off. What they didn't tick off is dissent, because for every day of the week that is dissent from Braden Maynard. So this is the confusion that players get. So whether that's out on the full or not, Maynard showed dissent, and that should have been a 50 from the top of the goal square. Cameron went back and slotted that. The AFL says, well, look, we had a different angle that shows that he actually did control the ball before it crossed the line. What isn't in dispute is this one. Ridiculous of Cameron to call for it, and ridiculous of Close to give it. That's a dumb error for 2 players to make. So that's the first point. He shouldn't have called for that. He shouldn't have given it. That was a mistake. But look at the 3 umpires. 1 in a triangle. 1, 2, 3. Not one of those 3 umpires.
Did you notice it live?
Yeah, 100% I did.
I didn't notice it live. I was sitting on the couch thinking, no, fair
No,
enough.
the crowd reacted. The crowd's going, what is going on? Collingwood getting crucified again, not for the first time in that night. And I don't say that very often, but they did. They didn't get the rub of the green on Friday night. That was an obvious one. 3 umpires in a triangle didn't pay it.
Yep.
And they should probably pay a pretty significant price for that.
All right, Darcy Moore in this one. Collingwood's injuries have had a pretty charmed run throughout the entirety of the season. Obviously, Nick Dacos going down leading into this. Darcy Moore's done a hamstring. Collingwood saying he won't play for the remainder of the home and away season, so at least for the next 2 weeks. Then they'll have the pre-finals bye. It'd be nice if they won a qualifying final and you could get another week off.
Yep.
But they're starting to stack up for the prize. And Jack Ginnivan came on, played pretty well as a sub, first game in 10 weeks.
Yeah, they've got depth though, don't they? That's the thing that Collingwood have that I don't think the other contenders have.
Yep.
So they can easily just slot Ginnivan in as a sub. He comes early off the back of the Moore injury and was significant.
Yeah.
I thought Ginnivan played hungry. I thought he was really impactful in that game. They got Ash Johnson, they got players, they got Cox that can come back in if they need to.
Back into the back line.
They can do all of that and Howe went forward. So he has more options, Craig McRae, personnel-wise, than, say, a Brisbane or a Port Adelaide or a Carlton or a Melbourne. So I think that's a big advantage that they've got.
Let's head to our AAMI clangers now. Who covers clangers? AAMI does. Not sure if you spotted this, Kane, but Jeremy Cameron getting the Vaseline. He thought, it's Friday night, it's under lights, I'm on the big screen, might just do my hair while I'm at it.
I reckon that's Grippo, not Vaseline. That's the sticky stuff on your hands and in your hair.
David Roden, this is right on the siren. He signalled to behind. He went to touch his chest as the behind signal then. Oh, it's a goal. No, changed my mind.
My man David Roden doesn't make any errors, and he didn't make one there. He corrected himself mid-signal. D-Rod, you're an absolute superstar.
Quite liked it, and we'll have to show you this, Cam. Not sure if you heard this. Jono, who we love on this show, geez, he made an error here.
So whether Chad Warner will go with these boots again next week. 10 kicks at 10%. Wow. Just might have to change them up.
Wits. Speaking of Warner,
hang on.
He might not change them at all.
Hang on.
He's just proved you wrong, Jono. Phenomenal. He heard you.
That is fantastic. That is the commentator's curse. Yeah, if I've seen it, Kane. All right, let's head to Western Australia and the Western Derby, where this one was an absolute shellacking. Fremantle recording its biggest ever Western Derby victory by 101 points against the Eagles.
And there's your Ross Glendinning medalist. Schultz had 24 touches. He kicked 5 goals. That was one of them. So the Eagles kicked the first 2 goals of the game. They didn't kick another one until the last quarter, and they allowed Fremantle to pile on 17 unanswered goals. Look at that ruck work there from Jackson to that man Schultz, the medalist in the Derby. This was a disgraceful performance once again from the Eagles, and you just wonder they've been so arrogant and so reluctant to address any of their issues and make no changes, either from the coach or from the CEO. I think their fitness man is the only one to pay a price. You just wonder whether a performance like that, an embarrassing performance against your arch rival when you concede 17 goals in a row, is the catalyst for them to make some change, either this week or at the end of the season. But as I've said about 10 times this year, no coach in history of world sport would survive a record like that. And that was highlighted again tonight. It
was a shambolic night for West Coast and shambolic scenes just before the game. Brady Hoff taken out of this game but still took his place on the bench. This is what Adam Simpson had to say.
Late change there, Simo. Can you just tell us what happened? Oh, Hoff hasn't trained all week, and then he got to the game and he just wasn't feeling right, so we had to make a call really late. So we, got some news from the doc within the last 30 seconds. So, yeah, a bit of chaos, but that's the type of day it's been, I suppose.
Yeah, you don't have all the information, but once again, it looks pretty amateurish, doesn't it, from a professional football club that they're about to start the game. The game has to be delayed because you don't know what lineup you're going to put into the game, which is about to start. So last week it was a no+1 behind the ball and they didn't want to do that, and potentially that cost them the game. This was an embarrassing moment before the game, and then what played out was also embarrassing. So, yeah, it's been a great year. It's been an excellent competition with so many teams vying for a top 8 position. The Eagles have been a significant dampener on it.
Let's get to the SCG now, where Sydney got the job done. 5 straight against Gold Coast. They were challenged early, but towards the second, third quarters, they started rolling extra men behind the ball and it paid a price.
Yeah, they did, and it wasn't just an extra. Like, you can see the extra there, that did come across, but they were so quick to get off their direct opponent. So even if it was a one-on-one matchup, they were so quick to read the cues quicker. So Blakey took 7 intercept marks for the game and 12 intercepts in total. McCartan took 5 intercept marks, and even Dylan Stevens was rolling back off the wing. So that quick kick out of stoppage did nothing, and they were so good off that. So the pressure on the ball was really good, and that increased for the Swans, and then their work behind the ball I thought was excellent. And they're one of the form teams in the comp, the Swans. They're well and truly inside the 8 now, and they're a team I would not like to play in a final. They are dangerous with their almost full personnel back now.
They look like they're raring to go. Will Hayward kicked a career-high 4 goals, just about best on ground for the Swans, and he's one of these players in the forward line that just can be so dangerous on his day.
They love him and they give him internal recognition. He probably doesn't get it externally. So he had Ballard, and Ballard, you remember, for the first half of the season was such a weapon as an interceptor. I think his numbers, he was almost the best interceptor in the game for a large portion of the year. So he was tasked with that job, did it so effective. You can see it here, just slips him there and takes a pretty easy mark and goes back and kicks a career-high 4 goals. So he's a disciplined player. He does the offensive stuff, but he also does the unheralded and unrewarded running. He was their best team man last year, and he's just building a very nice career.
It wasn't long ago when they were playing Geelong and Richmond where we were criticising Sydney for their goal kicking. This is the last 5 games which they've won all 5 of. Most accurate side of the competition across that stretch.
Yeah, so sometimes it's as simple as that. Sometimes your form is as simple as kicking 75-36, and we're seeing that Adelaide, just outside the 8, that's their accuracy, 18th in the league from 18 to 22. So, I mean, we do look in-depth at things sometimes. But maybe it's just as simple as that.
It's a simple game. Let's get to our ladder now. Plenty happening on the ladder with just a couple of weeks to go in the season. Collingwood keeps its 2-game lead atop of Brisbane on top of the ladder. But tell you what, look at that bottom half of the top 8.
Getting interesting. And what about the game tomorrow, twilight, between Port Adelaide and GWS? You can see GWS in 9th there. Port Adelaide just need to win to stay inside the top 4, really, in touch with top 2. And then you'd think Adelaide are done. I think mathematically they can get there, but it's going to be really difficult after today's loss. So probably down to 11 teams, I would have thought.
Let's have a look at the remaining round 22 fixtures now. And it starts in Tasmania with Hawthorn taking on the Bulldogs. St Kilda then plays Richmond. As you mentioned, Port Adelaide against the Giants. Port and Richmond both in action, and they're the teams at the centre of our Canes question this week. Cal Toomey on afl.com.au reporting on Saturday Arvo. Josh Carr out of the race to be Richmond's coach. Who do you reckon gets the Tigers gig now?
I actually don't know. I've got the feeling, I think Cal also mentioned Chris Newman. I've got the feeling he might be the one. I think Chris Newman, he's been at the Hawks for a while, I think, and has got an excellent resume and spoken in glowing terms, and is probably the right age. You get the feeling they wanted someone a little bit younger. So keep your eye on him, but I'm happy Josh Carr staying at Port Adelaide. I think Ken Hinkley stays for 2 years, and then I just think it's obvious. I think Josh Carr takes over from Ken Hinkley if that's the way it works out in 2 years, and I think that's a pretty good solution.
Massive show, Kane. Thank you for your help. We'll see you next week. Go the Tillies.